Hey everyone, thank you for joining. I'm going to just give a few more moments for people to join before we get started. So, good afternoon or good morning, depending on the time zone where you are. Thank you for joining me for today's webinar on how to attract and retain talent using your employer brand. My name is Lauren. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager here at Sienta. I know some of you have worked with us before, but for those of you who haven't engaged with Sienta previously, we are a life science recruitment partner working with biotech, pharma, and medtech companies both around Europe and in the US to find the best talent to support the brilliant work that you all do. I've worked within marketing for the past 8 years and have focused heavily on building and maintaining strong employer brands during this time. So hopefully there will be some useful takeaways or two from this webinar. So over the next 20 minutes or so, we'll define what an employer brand is and how it differs from your company brand, and the benefits of dedicating company resources to building yours. From there, we'll go through the stages of creating your employer brand, from your SWOT analysis through to ongoing monitoring and adapting to ensure your employer brand is working for you. We'll allow time for a Q&A at the end of the webinar. So if there are any questions throughout the presentation, please don't hesitate to send them through using the Q&A function shown at the bottom of the presentation. Now, hopefully everyone can see the presentation okay. I probably should have checked that sooner. If you are having any issues, just pop something in the chat and we can get it sorted. Okay, I'll keep going. So firstly, what is an employer brand? The best way to describe it is to break it down to its 3 key objectives. These are perception and identity, value proposition, and recruitment. So firstly, perception and identity. So your company brand is how you're perceived by your prospective clients, whereas your employer brand is how you're perceived by prospective talent. For example, if you're an SME biotech, your company brand would be aiming content towards hospitals, doctors, VC firms, or potential partners throughout and licensing purposes, and so on. So you'd want to focus on the science, the functionality behind your project, and everything around the factual side of things. But your employer brand should be targeting scientific professionals or operational staff who, although are also very much interested in the science, want to know more about your people and your culture. This approach should be a far more emotional approach. The way you engage with both of these target audiences should be different because they have very different motivations. Your value proposition is, so your employer brand is focused on what it's like working for you. What is your company culture, your benefit schemes, your values? Why would talent want to become part of your journey? And finally, and probably most importantly, is recruitment. So your employer brand should be at the core of your recruitment strategy. How you showcase your culture is an element of your employer brand, but your application and interview process also reflects how you're perceived by a prospective talent. So your employer brand needs to be considered throughout your hiring process. This is right from the qualifying stage of your hiring process straight through to how you onboard new members of staff. So what are the benefits of an employer brand? So building an employer brand is hard work and it takes a lot of resources to do it right. So why bother? Your employer brand is the very first interaction prospective talent have with your business. And in the current life science recruitment landscape, first impressions are everything, with 84% of job seekers stating the importance of a company's reputation whilst ongoing their job search. It's also proactive. Showcasing your company culture and the benefits that you offer will bring key talent to you. This could save you loads of recruitment and headhunting costs, as well as valuable company time and resource. A recent study by CareerArc also stated that a strong employer brand can increase retention rates by up to 50%. This just shows that if you're transparent about your business from the very start of the process, people come in with the right expectations, making them far more likely to stay with your business long term. So now that we've gone through what an employer brand is, it's time to start building yours. So in order to build a strong employer brand, you first need to take a look at where your employer brand currently sits. Just like you would perform a SWOT analysis on your business, you can perform one on your employer brand. But where would you find the data? If you undergo exit interviews, do a deep dive into how previous employees have felt about your company culture. I find people are most honest where there are no repercussions, so you're probably going to get a lot of honest feedback from this. You also want to have a look at external platforms such as Glassdoor. If you haven't heard of Glassdoor before, it's like the TripAdvisor for businesses. It allows people to leave reviews on how they found engaging with your company right from the interview stage. Because this is an anonymous platform, people are far more likely to speak their minds. Probably most importantly is to speak to your people. They understand the day-to-day culture of your business far more than you do. By undergoing a company survey, you're going to get some really useful knowledge for building an understanding of your existing employer brand. And finally, you want to have a look at your competitors and what they're doing. Do they have a dedicated careers page? Do they do employee video testimonials? What could you be doing better that's working well for them? You need to remember, when it comes to employer brand, you both have the exact same target audience. So once you've broken down your current employer brand, it's time to look at what you want it to look like. This is where your EVP comes into play. So your EVP, which is also known as your employer value proposition, is a unique set of offerings and benefits that your business provides to your employees. And it's at the very core of your employer brand. You most likely already have benefits in place, but it's important to understand the why behind them, because this is your story as an employer. For example, if you offer hybrid working, why? Is it because you value work-life balance for your employees, or because you have a foundation of trust that people will get their work done? The why defines your motivations as an employer. You then want to make sure that your values align with both your EVP and how you want to be perceived by your employer with your employer brand. Your company values should be the supporting pillars of your employer brand. So you need to make sure that these are not only clear, but also purposeful. So for example, one of Sienta's core values is that we're transparent, both with our clients and our team. And our why behind that value is that we want our business to be built on trust. So think about what you want people to feel when they think about your business, and then go from there. To do this, you want to have a lot of different opinions involved. So make sure not only to involve senior management in the discussion, but also people at all levels of seniority, because they'll all have a very different interaction with your business. Your values should also include your EEI and ESG. What is your business doing to be inclusive and environmentally responsible? These are key elements to your company culture and are becoming expected by candidates more now than ever before. At this point in the process, you should have a clear understanding of your values and how you want people to feel about your business. But before you get the word out there to prospective talent, you first need to start a little bit closer to home and deliver this message internally. So the delivery of your employer brand starts at the very beginning of this process, when you're undergoing your SWOT analysis. Your people will be key in shaping what your employer brand looks like. Surveys to understand the existing perception, and focus groups to build out your desired EVP and values. That way, when it comes to launching your employer brand, your people are already invested because they feel that they've had a say from the very beginning. From there, ensuring delivery of the employer brand within the business starts at the very top. Make sure that all senior leadership have a keen understanding of what your employer brand is, so they can include the values in the daily management of the team. And then there's workshops. These are often around inclusivity, combating unconscious bias, and showing people within the business how to live by the values. This allows people to put the values into action, And it's also great for collaboration within teams and outside of teams as well. Now, from a marketing perspective, you'll want to make sure that your employer brand is at the forefront of all internal communication. You can do this by highlighting people within the business that are living the values in an internal newsletter, or through just internal branding within your office as well also works. To use Sienta as an example, we highlight our values during the initial conversations that we have with recruitment experts we want to work with. That knowledge of the values is then strengthened during the interview process and throughout the onboarding training sessions. We don't stop there though. Our internal newsletter that goes out on a monthly basis nominates someone that's living the company values and how they're doing so. Then our reward systems are built around those values also. This ensures that they're part of the day-to-day life of Sienta. Once you've ensured that you have the processes in place so that your business is already living your employer brand, it's then time to showcase it externally. With your external employer brand, you can do as little or as much as you like, but the more you do, the more your employer brand will work for you. So firstly, you want to make sure that you're utilizing your social media accounts. Traditionally speaking, LinkedIn is a business platform and Instagram is much more consumer-based. Consider turning your Instagram into a community hub for your employer brand. However, this doesn't mean that you want to ignore LinkedIn completely, as a lot of business professionals will still use this platform to find out about you and your business. By optimizing your people section to showcase your company culture without taking away from your client-based branding. In terms of the content that you're creating for these platforms, video is always best, and I cannot stress this enough. If you have the resources available, it's so worth investing in video content. And it really doesn't have to be high-tech or expensive. You can purchase a cheap phone iPod off Amazon, and you'll still get the high-quality content that you're looking for. You also want to show that you're supporting your people wherever you can. Talk about their achievements and promotions. Not only will this make your existing team feel more valued, it'll also demonstrate to your audience that you offer progression and support within your business. Another way to promote your employer brand, albeit a little bit more expensive, is through creating a careers page or microsite. This can turn into a hub for your employee testimonials, values, and company purpose. It's also a great place to lead prospective talent so they can learn more about your business. Now, I wanted to give you an example of a great employer brand showcase. So I wanted to show you Jazz Pharmaceuticals. Due to their dedicated career site, they're able to showcase their values, benefits, mission, and purpose. They also have make the most of multimedia with written employee stories, video testimonials, and they also have mobile automation chatbot features as well. Aside from their career site, they also showcase not only their people's professional achievements, but also their personal ones, which shows a real insight into the relationships they're building within their business. And this, I've never interacted with Jazz Pharmaceuticals. This is just what I get from looking at their employer brand. So you've launched your employer brand internally and externally, but what's next? Obviously, you want to make sure that your employer brand is working for you, which, since there isn't a sales price that you can track, you need to use different metrics to monitor the success of your outreach. You can do this by sending out an employee satisfaction survey every 6 months and assessing the results. You can also take a look at your retention rates on a year-on-year basis. Obviously, these metrics are more long-term. And if you're looking to see how your content is working sooner, take a look at the quality of your applications, as well as your social media engagement metrics. With this, you want to see an increase in likes and comments, but also people applying for your positions through your social media accounts. From there, you want to evolve. So because the talent landscape is constantly changing, your employer brand should never be staying still. Using the measurements that I mentioned, look at what content is working and also what isn't. Sometimes there's a lot of trial and error when it comes to employer brand. So please don't be disheartened if you don't get it right straight away. For your employer brand to keep working for you, It's important that you keep an eye on industry trends as well as performing competitor research on around a bi-yearly basis to ensure you're keeping up to date with everything that's happening within your talent landscape. If your employees have constructive feedback, action it. They have a keener understanding of your employer brand than anyone else, so their insights are invaluable. Also, if they're giving you feedback and you're not responding to it, they're going to feel unheard and it's going to affect morale. I've created some helpful documents that I'll be sending through to you after this webinar that should help you get started on the path to smashing your employer brand. Our onboarding checklist will give you a clear breakdown on how to hit the ground running with new employees to ensure a great company culture. And our recent candidate survey that we sent out to our life science candidate database has some great insights into what prospective talent within our industry are currently looking for from their employers. Now, I know that was brief, but that is the end of the presentation. So I'm now going to have a look at the questions and get them answered for you. Okay, perfect. So I've got a question here around DEI. So to go into a bit more detail about what DEI is, so that stands for diversity, inclusion, and equality. I've said that in the wrong order, but you know what I mean. So this is basically, you can have a DEI policy, which is something that you put in place, one, through in your hiring process to ensure that it's always inclusive, and also between the day-to-day workings of your business. So DEI is massive at the moment, and it's really important to look into this in a much larger scale than through this webinar, and to see if your business is currently showing any unconscious bias, both from senior management or just on a day-to-day basis. So there's a lot that companies need to do in order to ensure they're up to scratch when it comes to DEI. Okay, well, that's the only, oh, sorry, there's another one. Okay, perfect. So this question's around some challenges with board buy-in. Now, this is a issue that I've come across many times in the past of my career, because with marketing as a whole, because there's not necessarily a revenue to employer brand, it's very difficult to get buy-in with senior management or with the board. So I find the best way in sort of getting buy-in for employer branding is talking about the money you would save rather than the money you would spend. So think about what the average cost of a new hire would be, or the average loss of productivity if someone's not onboarded correctly, or you make the wrong hire. By instead talking about the negatives of not doing it, you're much more likely to get buy-in to do it in the future. Okay, those are the questions, and that is the end of the webinar. So thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend, and I really hope you found the information useful. The recording of the webinar will be sent out automatically from the webinar platform, and I will follow up shortly with the resources mentioned. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you again for attending.